Well, this is it. Between the medallion there and the fountain behind me, this is the start of the gap. 150 miles to Cumberland, and then another 180 to get to Washington, D.C. So about 340. I've got 5 days to do it, 4 nights. Let's get those pedals turning. Well, you gotta love the cycling infrastructure in Pittsburgh, right through the center of town. Green lanes, separated from the cars. I'm loving it. Oh wait, McDonald's has that slogan. What do you think? Wow, the Great Allegheny Passage is not all that great. It's real loud and noisy. It goes by a freeway. Well, it gets better, way better. I generally stop at the interpretive signs, and this one's particularly very interesting. This guy was on a bicycle world tour, started off in 1892, but look at his bicycle. That's basically the same design mostly that we're riding, you know, over 150 years later. You know, Pittsburgh being a big steel town, there's a lot of relics of the steel industry here, and with the decline of steel making, Pittsburgh has done a really good job of revitalizing its economy with technology. That was the Phantom's Revenge roller coaster at Kennywood. I rode that one years ago, and I remember I was standing in line. It started to rain, so I was waiting for the front seat, obviously, if you know me. And remember, it was still raining. Got on the ride hits the downhill, and I'm like, the rain's pelting my face. I'm like, ah! Good times, good times. First time I rode through here, it was raining, and I had gravel all over my bike and my trailer. I wasn't running fenders, and it was harder for me 8 years ago than it is now. Dead Man's Hollow. This loop trail in McKeesport is new since I last rode through here in 2016. It gives you two options. One, you can come down on this side of the river before you cross over at Boston, or cross over now and then you go down the official trail to Boston. It gives you some access, if you stay on this side, to a bike shop, some restaurants, and some rain shelters, and it avoids a climb on the gap, which is on the other side. So two options, two great trails. Dead Man's Hollow, best keep a sharp eye. And now we hit the crushed limestone. So we have that for about 129 miles. Actually, exactly 129 miles. I just passed the marker there. Listen to that. Can you hear the crickets? Washington, D.C., 306 miles. This is the red waterfall, when it gets its color from acid mining drainage. West Newton and the West Newton Station, home of Gap Trail merch. Merch! Who doesn't love great Allegheny Passage socks? Alright, Gap, story so far. I came from Pittsburgh, through Homestead, McKeesport, Boston, which was to my right, to my left, Connellsville, Ohio Pile, all the way to Washington, D.C., 300 miles away. A couple days, I'll be there. Look what I snagged for the night. My own Adirondack lean-to here in Connellsville. Last time I came through, these were all taken, and I ended up staying at that with my tent at that blue building over there, but now I got a spot, and I'm gonna have a good night tonight. Breakfast of Champions. Welcome to Adventures with Paul, day 6. A couple days to make the train, but had to get a shot at going through the Connellsville Arch. That's kind of like a famous thing as you ride the Gap Trail coming through Connellsville. I wonder if it's even 50 degrees yet today on the trail. But I am out, I'm ready to go. I've got about a 58-60 mile to Meyersdale, and then we have a hotel stay, last hotel stay of the trip. I always thought this area of Connellsville was nice. They took a, wide street and split it into two, separating the bike trail from the actual road. 274 to Washington, D.C. So that means 4 days to get 274 miles. It's gonna be a lot of riding, I'll tell you. While we're in the avenue of sameness with all the trees, I figure I'll give you a lowdown on what I'm packing. So on the front, I have lashed with 2 voile straps, my tent, rain fly, ground cloth, all of that stuff hanging from there. Behind that, you might see my iPhone, which I'm using for navigation. On the left-hand side of my frame bag, I keep my iPad. I'll probably ditch that next time, maybe use it for Cliff Bars. On the right side in the top, I've got a ½ gallon of water. I've got Cliff Bars, sunscreen, Body Glide. In the lower compartment, I have a water filter, chain lock. And on the 2 panniers in the rear, on the left, is my quilt. It's a 30-degree down quilt. I have a sleeping pad, a little pillow. Yes, a pillow. And then on the right side, I've got all my clothing and some toiletries. As you pass along this area, you can look up at the hills and see that dark gray slate color. That's coal up there. Same stream that we just saw as it goes around the peninsula. I got my breakfast. Ohiopyle is this small little hamlet in the middle of the mountains known for whitewater rafting, but you know, some people might think it's too small, but they've got a library. Put a little sunscreen on my arm so the sun won't do me harm. Being a former rail corridor, there's a lot of viaducts. So these carried the trains over the valleys, and you can see them right behind me, and the waterways, and it's just really pretty. There it is, 57 trips around the sun on planet Earth. Hopefully I'll have many more mile markers to hit in my life as I enjoy more and more adventures on two wheels. I've been climbing a 1% grade all day, which you can feel it generally shift down about 1 gear and still spin it out, but no place I'd rather be on a Wednesday. Just about to head out onto the Salisbury Viaduct, which is one of the crown jewels of the Great Allegheny Passage. The Salisbury Viaduct is 1,908 feet long, and it's a 101-foot high steel trestle going over the valley. So really, really cool. First built in 1912, and now being used by hundreds, if not thousands, of cyclists every single year. That was the Castleman River down below. You can see it just off my left shoulder. And this roadway is a roadway. Driving Meyersdale. I don't know about you, but I find model trains pretty cool. Some of the intricate detail that people have really worked on to kind of set it all up and get it going, and then they have a train running around. Warms my heart. And now for the downhill run into the hotel. Whee! Well, there we go. There's the Morgan Tool where I stayed last night. It's about 10 of 7. I'm gonna head down to the local convenience store and see what I can scare up for breakfast. It's 217 miles to Washington, D.C. I got a fully loaded touring bike, 20,000 milliampere battery, half gallon of water, 6 Cliff bars. It's dawn and I'm wearing sunglasses. Hit it. Rollin', rollin', rollin'. Keep those bike wheels rollin'. Oh, there we go. We got some windmills running on the top of the ridge. Nice clean energy. There it is. Eastern Continental Divide. Highest point of the trip. All right, the story so far. Down here, Pittsburgh, all the way into about Connellsville. You can see here, that's where I was 2 nights ago. Climb, 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 to Meyersdale, where I started off last night. I was here, shows 2 people, but there's only me today, so there's nobody to celebrate with. And now I go all the way downhill into Cumberland. So that's going to be a screaming descent. It's going to be a blast. Woo! Big Savage Tunnel. This is one of the highlights. Big Savage Vista. Things are big and they're savage. Mason-Dixon line, Pennsylvania, Maryland. Eight miles to Columbus. I'm in the single digits now. I passed by 9, but I was in the aero bars and flying by so quickly because this is a rocket downhill. Oh, this is so much fun. I got about a little less than 8 miles for this, and then I start all over again with 180 on the C&O. Hey, check that out. That's the train that I had to stop for in Meyersdale. I caught up with it already. Now it stopped at Cumberland. That's pretty cool. There it is. C&O complete. Well, that's it. 150 miles of the gap done. Now to 180 on the C&O. So I always thought this view of Cumberland was nice here as you start the C&O towards Washington, D.C. Got about another 180 miles, so it's time to start pedaling at about 10:30 in the morning. This shows mile 184, so that indicates how many more miles I have till I get into Washington, D.C. It gets dark here. You think you can make it through the tunnel without a light, but it gets dark here when you get in towards the middle of the tunnel. Pawpaw Tunnel complete! Here we are at Devil's Alley. This was my original goal for today. So I made my goal, super happy. It's 3:15, so Indigo Neck is 5.3 miles away. I'm gonna go for that one, and then I think I'll call it a day. I retreated into my tent for the night because the bugs were just starting to get to be a little... Hello everybody, welcome to the official Adventures with Paul Day 8. I guess a little over a week ago I started, well, Friday afternoon, it is now Friday morning. I started in Buffalo and now I'm headed into DC. I wanted to hit the trail by 7. I didn't quite make that. It was 7:02, so 2 minutes late. I'm getting a little slow in my old age. There's a little over a 23-mile converted rail trail which parallels the C&O Canal Trail. It's called the Western Maryland Rail Trail. It's completely paved and super smooth. Similar to the gap, the C&O has mile markers that shows you what mile you are on the actual trail. As you roll through this tunnel of greenery, which is quiet, very peaceful, flat, it gives you something to do to count down. They can be both inspiring, like, yeah, I've got only 117 miles to go, or demoralizing. I have 117 miles to go. Just passed under that railroad bridge, and what you can't get on video is the smell of that tar, you know, railroad ties. When you smell them, oh, they got the heavy tar smell. Several places on the towpath dammed up the Potomac River and then forced the canal boats out into the river. That created these areas of slack water where instead of building a canal, they were able to use the river with a very gentle current. .25 C&O Canal midpoint, which means half of it is behind me, and I've got the other half to ride. Some of it today, some of it tomorrow. This area here was right next to the cliffs on a riverbank, which every year would get more and more eroded with the flow of the river and the trampling of the mules. So it washed out years ago, and the National Park Service replaced the wooden structure that they had here with a concrete structure. If you're missing your Pearl Izumi extra large cycling gloves, I found them on the trail in 2 different locations, and I hung them from the Big Woods hiker biker campsite. So if you're watching this and you want to know where they are, so far 85 miles. I'm at Beams in the Belfry, an old converted church into a coffee shop, and it's pretty funky. Well, my plan worked. I put in the 12.8 extra from Huckleberry Hill to make it here, which puts me closer to DC. But now that I'm here, I've got 90 miles done on the day. And now I'm looking at Calico Rocks, 2.7 miles. I say we go for it. Welcome to Adventures with Paul, day 5 of the Gap C&O, day 9 of the whole Great Lakes to DC trip. You can hear it's raining. It's been raining since about 12:30 this morning, but I was smart. Last night I brought my breakfast inside the tent. So I got that, I got some water. The plan is to pull everything that you see here into panniers, pack it all up, leaving me only the tent to pack up actually in the rain. Behind me is Potomac River Falls. These are about 14 miles north of Washington, D.C. It's pretty rural, pretty rugged. You wouldn't really expect it to be this rugged, this close to DC. because you see the river in DC and it's kind of placid, but the wild, it's pretty cool. Here I am on the way home in my little cabin, my little roomette. This is my home for the next couple of hours. Cheers. Made it 614.1 miles overall, 9 days, 3 nights in a hotel, rest of it camping. So I'm going to cut into my beef tips here and have some of that, and just enjoy a nice relaxing trip home in the sleeper car.